I was standing by my dad's burial spot. He used to be the head of a big corporation. After he passed away, my sister's husband, David, took charge. He ended up with the business and a huge amount of cash, something like $450 million, while all I got was an old pickup truck. David, showing off his good luck, sneered and said, "The company and everything else is mine now. That old truck is just right for you." But that truck was more than just a vehicle to me. I looked at it closely, and when I turned the key, I saw a place already marked on the GPS. What's this? I wondered. Holding the steering wheel firmly but gently, I started driving. Hey everyone, I'm Olivia. I'm 42 years old now. Right now, I'm standing next to a large casket where my father is resting peacefully. My relationship with my dad had always been a bit tricky. He built a construction business from nothing, but I chose a different path right after college. I left home to become a teacher, which was a dream I'd had since I was a kid. This choice led to a lot of arguments, and for a long time, we hardly spoke. Even though we disagreed, I never disliked my father. I had my own goals I needed to follow, and I couldn't give them up just to run the family business. Even though I felt a strong duty as the eldest child, I felt bad for not living up to my father's hopes. This feeling stopped me from visiting my parents' house. My mom relied on my sister, Sarah, to keep dad updated about my life. Sarah and David would often send expensive gifts or plan trips for my dad's birthday or their anniversary, pretending they were from me. Each time, Sarah would encourage me, saying, "I wish you and dad could just talk. He's just trying to be strong. Deep down, he must be lonely." I'd often think about what Sarah said and just shake my head. But then, one day, I got the sad news that my dad was sick with a serious illness. When I heard, I quickly quit my job and went back to the town of Riverwood where my family lived. I realized that what really mattered was life itself, and the old arguments with my father seemed so small. I decided to move back to my hometown, teach at a local school, and help take care of my sick father. At first, my dad was surprised I came back, but he eventually accepted it quietly. I didn't say much either. I just stayed by his side and took care of him, helping him whenever he needed something. He'd thank me softly, and those quiet words gave me some peace. Sadly, my father's battle with his illness ended. The final part of his life finished quietly, with me, Sarah, and our mother by my side. We couldn't know what he was thinking right at the end, but we hoped his spirit was calm. Even though we expected it, losing him hit us all hard. My mother, Sarah, and even my young nephew, Ben, were all very sad and cried a lot. The only one who didn't seem emotional was my brother-in-law, David. During the funeral arrangements, he coldly asked, "So, he finally kicked the bucket, huh?" Hearing that, I was proud of myself for staying calm and not getting angry at David. Instead, I focused on getting everything ready for my father's service. This kept me busy and helped take my mind off the pain. I ignored David's harsh comments and made sure all the funeral arrangements were done properly. David and I had never gotten along well, and our relationship only got worse over time. But through it all, I stayed focused during this tough period. I first met David when he was a skilled worker at my father's company, and I really respected his abilities. It felt like I'd gained a true brother when David married my sister, Sarah. He was 7 years older than me and seemed like a wise figure. Before David and Sarah got married, I often asked him for advice on different issues, and he always listened and seemed to understand. One of the big talks we had was about whether I should join the family business. David would say, "You should live your own life, Olivia. You have your own path. Nobody knows which life choices are best, so the main thing is to make decisions you won't regret later." Encouraged by his words, I switched from business school, where I was studying management, to the education department, where I really wanted to be. As time went by, David and Sarah got married and started their life together. About 20 years have gone by since then, and the distance between my father and me grew wider. I moved on with my life, missing the chance to bridge that gap. But when I heard about my dad's illness, I dropped everything and hurried home. David, who used to greet me warmly, had changed. He now seemed uncomfortable around me. When we were alone, David would say coldly, "You rushed back when you heard he was sick, right? But no matter what, you won't get any inheritance." His words caught me off guard, and I struggled to reply. "What do you mean? Don't act like you don't know." Maybe it's just a coincidence. But even if you now want to run the company, the next leader is already decided, David said sternly. His words surprised me, and I replied louder than I meant to, no, that's not why. I didn't come back for the company. I realized I hadn't been a good child and wanted to say sorry to Dad, even if it's late. David brushed me off. I don't need your dramatic talk. It sounds like something from those shows Sarah watches. But were all those presents you sent just a way to look good to him? That's totally untrue. I tried to explain, but David had already decided what he believed and wasn't interested in listening. His words also seemed like an insult to Sarah, and for the first time, I felt a deep separation between us. Since that argument, I started feeling really upset with David. He began making fun of me openly. No matter how hard you try to get on her good side, that time is over. Don't make me laugh. Go back where you belong and take care of your difficult students, he would say. At first, I thought a lot about how people saw me, but David's words showed he cared more about himself than our father. His actions often seemed disrespectful to both his father-in-law and his wife, Sarah. I began to think that David had married Sarah mainly to get closer to my father's company and money. He hardly ever visited my father when he was sick and didn't help look after him. At that point, all I could do was try my best to protect the business my father had built. David always sounded smooth, but really he just wanted to avoid any trouble. On weekends, he'd play golf, claiming it was for business. He barely ever looked after his own son. He'd say he wanted his son to learn many things to eventually take over the business, but he left all the driving and chores to Sarah. When Sarah showed a little unhappiness about this, David would grasp her hand and say with feeling, I'm giving absolutely everything for his future. Now is the moment we have to get results however we can. Let's get through this challenge together. Sarah found it hard to stand up to him and usually just agreed, even though she seemed hesitant. David was good at acting like the perfect husband in front of Sarah, so it's not surprising she believed him. He showed his real self to me, probably because he thought I was similar. I eventually got used to David's teasing, and it didn't bother me as much. However, when our dear father passed away, I was heartbroken. I felt a profound sadness and emptiness. Although David seemed upset about our father's declining health, I couldn't shake the feeling that he had been waiting for this moment. This idea made me very sad and angry. After our father died, David got most of his large fortune. Even though he was only a son-in-law, he had the same inheritance rights as Sarah and I, according to my father's will. He received most of the company's shares and a lot of wealth. This unexpected turn of events left me speechless. Even though I was my father's biological child, I had expected the inheritance to be divided fairly among the three of us, but instead, David got almost everything. All I received was an old pickup truck that my father once loved. In public, David seemed surprised, but when he was alone with me, he laughed and said, You came all the way from the big city to this small town, looked after Dad day and night, and all you get is this little truck, huh? What a ridiculous ending. Now the company is mine, and all you have left is this pickup truck as your inheritance. It's like something out of a joke. As he left the room with a smirk, I felt empty inside, gripping the truck keys tightly. The cold metal made me face the harsh truth. But my family tried to comfort me. Keep your chin up. Dad had his reasons. He didn't mean to upset you. That truck was something Dad always cared about. It was his favorite vehicle. He definitely cared about you. Despite their kind words, I was too hurt to respond. I knew that what you inherit doesn't measure a father's affection, but the fact that David, who seemed to be waiting for my father's death, got almost everything was deeply insulting. It wasn't about the money. It was the pain of seeing my father's life's work go to a man like that. I felt helpless to change the situation. Holding the truck key, I decided to take care of the pickup truck, the only thing my father left me. It seemed to have a deeper meaning. I hoped that cleaning the truck might help me sort out my feelings. I carefully washed the truck with a hose and then sat in the driver's seat, where my father used to sit. Starting the engine, I noticed something odd on the GPS. It was showing a single thick blue line instead of just my current spot. That's weird. Why is there a destination set on the GPS? I wondered. This usually only happens when a specific route is being followed. When I checked the destination on the screen, it only showed coordinates, not a specific address. It looked like about an hour's drive. Wanting to take the pickup truck for a spin, I didn't think too much about it. I put the truck in gear and left the house. About an hour later, after a pleasant drive, I arrived at what looked like a home. It was a surprise. In front of me was a small, simple house, quite different from the bigger homes in my town. It felt welcoming and comfortable. The area was quiet, and I couldn't see or hear anyone else around. I got out of the truck and stood in front of the house, feeling a bit confused. There were no signs telling me what this place was, but it seemed the GPS had led me here for a reason. Hesitantly, I rang the doorbell. As the door slowly opened, the person I saw was the last one I expected. My mother. "I've been expecting you, Olivia." "Come in, dear," she said. "Why are you here, Mom? And how did this place get set in Dad's GPS?" I asked. "I'll explain everything, but first, come inside and relax," she replied. Following her inside, I found the place simple yet cozy, with just the basic things. My mom made some tea and began to explain calmly, "Actually, this was your father's secret little retreat." "A retreat? I've never heard of Dad having a place like this," I said, surprised. She explained, "This place is our private spot. We came here when we needed our own space or wanted some peace and quiet. If we ever had a small disagreement, our rule was to come here to calm down. You didn't know about it, did you?" I was stunned, thinking deeply. I had no idea such a family rule existed. She continued, "And this is something your father wanted you to have." Saying this, she handed me a brown envelope. It was slightly full, as if something important was inside. I decided to read the letter addressed to me. "Olivia, I have caused you a lot of problems and made you go through truly difficult times over the years. I am honestly sorry from the bottom of my heart." The letter was filled with my father thinking about his past mistakes and how truly thankful he was for me. He wrote, "Your mother often tells me that it was your choice to leave home, and a child has the right to choose their own life path. We are both stubborn, but when you came back after I became ill, it was a wonderful surprise. Although I couldn't show it well because I'm not good at expressing my feelings, I am deeply thankful to you for supporting and taking care of the family." This was the first time I heard such sincere words from my father, and it made me very emotional. The letter also mentioned David. To be honest, my uneasiness about David grew over time. He's good with words and makes people feel at ease, but I could see his real nature. I suspected his sneaky behavior around the house was his way of trying to claim ownership. I was too tired from work and looking after you all to notice his clever actions, but now, knowing David as I do, I believe these suspicions were correct. The letter went on, "I don't plan on giving the company to you, but if something unexpected happens, I have left a substantial amount of money with your mother. This is to make sure that you and Sarah won't be in need. Please accept it." After finishing the letter, I looked up at my mother. She didn't say anything but looked at the brown envelope. I reached for it and checked what was inside, confirming everything was in my mother's name. She began to speak firmly. "If I put the money in your and Sarah's names, it would be seen as a gift under tax rules. If it was mentioned in the will, David might try to take it. Your father gave me this money secretly while he was still alive to prevent David from interfering. Now I want to give it to you and Sarah as a living gift." She explained this to me, but I was still trying to understand the full impact. The amount written in the account book she showed me was enormous, unlike anything I could have imagined. I had never seen so much money before. It meant a great deal to me that my dad had left this for me, not because of how much it was, but because it showed he truly cared about me, not just David, who was seen as his successor. This affected me deeply. We didn't often share deep emotional words, but I knew he always cared deeply for us. "I want everything I trusted your mother with to be given to you as a thank you for all the gifts you've given me, and for that, I am truly thankful," he wrote. Before I realized it, tears were running down my face. I couldn't stop my emotions. For a long time, I felt that my father never truly understood me, but I was completely wrong. He always understood and valued me. That's probably why he trusted me with that old pickup truck, knowing I would appreciate it and use it well. I said, "Mom, I truly wish I could have done more for Dad," feeling deep regret. But my mother comforted me with a gentle smile. She seemed to understand the regret I felt, saying, It's normal to think you could have done more when mourning a parent, but you brought your father great joy and gave him so much love. You were his greatest pride." Hearing her words made me cry again, but they also inspired me to make a firm decision. I wouldn't let the company my father built fall into the hands of someone like David, who had hoped he would die. I decided to quietly resist and make a careful plan without letting David know I had come into a substantial fortune. The first step was to get in touch with the company leaders my father had trusted to build a base of support from them. They agreed to help, supporting my wish to carry on my father's legacy. Their reactions made it clear that my father had never spoken badly about me. Meanwhile, my mother and sister acted normally and didn't show any strong feelings during the reading of the will, keeping David's attention off me. They continued to act the same way in front of David, which made him think he had won, and he looked down on me with arrogance. "Hey you, abandoned by your father and left with nothing, still planning to stay in this house," he mocked. "I'm the new head now. Just admit you've lost and go back home," David would say dismissively, waving his hand as if swatting away a small insect. Since becoming CEO, David's proud attitude created a tense atmosphere in the company. Despite his high position, he ignored his duties and became rude to his staff. This caused many problems, and many skilled employees left, unhappy with how he was leading. David didn't question his approach and remained overly confident. "Those who can't grasp my brilliant ideas might as well just leave now," he would say publicly, making decisions without listening to anyone else. As the company's problems grew, David enjoyed spending money and living a fancy life, while his interest in the business seemed to fade. When I first met him, he seemed like a great person, capable, and even my dad liked him. How had he changed so much? My mother cried every night, hiding her tears from the children. I couldn't just watch the company collapse. I was quietly preparing my next move. The day came when I made my move. I left home early and waited at the office for David. When he walked into the president's office, he was shocked to see me sitting there. "What in the world are you doing? Why are you sitting there? Get this person out of here," he demanded. "The one who needs to leave is you," I replied calmly. "What are you talking about? Have you lost your mind?" David looked at me as if I were an irritating bug. "Using the assets our father left us, I bought the majority of the company's shares. A special meeting of the shareholders was held, and you were officially removed as president, David. I regret to inform you, but you are no longer the head of this company." "Hold on a minute," he stammered, confused, repeating words that didn't make sense. "Don't you understand? I now control 2/3 of this company's shares. You thought the inheritance was just an old pickup truck, but that truck turned into money in an unexpected way." David tried to pry for details about the retreat, but I avoided his questions and changed the subject, which only made him more upset. "The game is finished. Leave this place immediately," I told him calmly and handed him some papers. As David looked through them, his face turned pale. "What is this?" he asked. "These are the notes from the special meeting of shareholders, and this other document is your notice of termination," I explained. David became very angry, crumpled the papers in his hands, and shouted, "You think this will stand up? I'll sue. Go ahead and take legal action." "We have solid reasons for what we've done," I responded calmly. "What reasons?" "You've just been after the old man's money and this company from the start. It's pure jealousy," David accused. "Let me ask you directly, David. Have you been using company funds for your own use and signing lease agreements for your personal benefit?" I asked. "So what if I have? What's it to you?" David replied, his face turning even paler with shock. "How did you know about that?" he stammered. As I listed his wrongdoings, like taking home computers and other devices meant for company use, David struggled to answer. "Computers and a TV that should be at the office are at your house being used for personal things. Isn't that reason enough to act?" I pushed. David frantically tried to defend himself. "Why? How do you know about that?" he asked, his lips trembling. I kept my eyes on him and continued, "You should have been more aware of your duties. Did you get careless when you thought you controlled everything?" I had been gathering information about David's actions from the company's executives after our father passed away. David became more arrogant. He used to at least pretend to respect others, but as president, he started pushing his work onto others and even fell asleep in his office. This behavior caused many loyal employees who respected my father to leave, frustrated by his actions. David, upset by the situation, questioned my ability to manage, insisting it was impossible for me to handle the role of a manager. You've never worked a day in this company. Think about it. How can someone with no experience running a business become president? It's impossible to trust management to someone like you, David argued. You are absolutely right. I agreed. I have no intention of becoming the president of this company. My sitting in this chair is just a symbolic message to you. In fact, a new president has already been chosen by a different group of directors and is already doing their job. David was shocked. He stood there with his mouth open and his eyes wide, stunned by how things had turned out. He had been certain that I was after the presidency and had planned to replace him. As I've said many times, I'm not after the president's job. My only aim is to honor my father and protect the company he spent his life building, I explained. Who would believe such fancy talk? David retorted. He thought I only cared about the money and status that came from our father, not his real value. After my reply, David shook with anger for a moment, but then calmed himself. You think this is finished and you can just enjoy it? He scoffed, then stormed out of the president's office. That night, something unexpected happened. Sarah gave David divorce papers, ending their marriage. This happened because of his bad behavior at the company and his eventual firing. The new president was picked from the directors who respected my father and were determined to protect what he had built. I felt the company should be led by someone who would continue my father's legacy, a feeling my mother and sister shared. While I was working with lawyers on David's dismissal, Sarah was getting ready for the divorce. The day she mentioned divorce, her voice filled the house with a heavy sadness. Why are you turning away from me now? Is it because I've lost the title of president and you've lost interest in me? David asked. Keeping her calm but firm manner, Sarah replied, There's no point talking about betrayal. You were the one who betrayed our relationship from the very beginning. Your love wasn't for me, but for the title of the president's daughter. You ignored our home, didn't help raise our children, showed no respect to our sick father, and in the end, you tried to take everything from our father for yourself. Now it's time for you to face what you've done. David had nothing to say to Sarah's words. She had gone through a lot, worrying about her children's futures and what would happen to the company. But thankfully, the inheritance from our father gave her a strong financial base to raise her children. After the divorce, we planned to live a peaceful life away from conflict with our mother and sister. Our only worry was if David might try to get back at us, but he was now out of money. He had lost a significant amount to an investment con and was even in debt. This scam involved a man pretending to be from a stock firm who was actually a fraudster. David, convinced by smooth talk, lost a large sum. This situation showed how people can take advantage of those who suddenly have a lot of money. Now David was suffering the money problems caused by his actions. Meanwhile, I spent my days happily taking care of my mother. I enjoyed a quiet, comfortable life, continuing my work at the tutoring place. My mother and I also really enjoyed looking after my nephew, Ben, who was very fond of us. Having him around added happiness to our daily lives. When I grow up, I'm going to be a president like Grandpa, Ben declared, his words full of the innocent dreams of childhood. This brought smiles to our faces and even made my mother tear up with emotion. Sarah and I exchanged understanding looks, our smiles showing warmth and connection. You might say that now, but I wouldn't be surprised if you want to become a teacher when you're in college, I teased him gently, thinking back to similar things said in the past, which made everyone laugh. But I'm not very good at studying, so maybe I won't be a good teacher, he said seriously, frowning slightly. His earnestness made this even more charming and led to more laughter, this time filled with affection. In that moment, filled with an overwhelming feeling of happiness, we realized we were truly living in the present, enjoying our family being together.